town street. I like to meet my friends there every week, and I know we'll talk about some facts and things, history and science and some crazy shit. Talking it out with Alan, Ben, and Nick, and I know that it's gonna be a weird-ass show. Ooh, insanity abounds. Ooh, the world is spinning round. Now we're gonna break it down.
Thanks for listening. This is Informed and Confused. I'm Ben.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Nick, master of our now extant social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Informed and Confused, at Twitter at InfoConfused. Presently with 2 followers that are not one of the 3 of us. It's amazing. We're exploding.
We're on our way!
I love it. We're definitely in a high-end studio and not a garage.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, the green screen behind us is giving you this wonderful view of a garage. But it's really high technology. And I don't think any of that picked up because I wasn't talking into the mic.
Oh, probably not. Alan, do you want to get us to the information today?
Sure, Nick. Today we're going to be talking about South Pacific cargo cults, specifically Melanesian cargo cults.
The most I know about this is that it's some literal white savior shit. That is the most I understand of this topic.
Well, if I'm not wrong, this whole thing kind of grew out of the mess after World War II with our fighting in the Pacific with the Japanese or something.
That has something to do with it.
To my understanding, this goes back to like basically industrial oceanic travel started this shit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Late 19th century. White messianic is, there are components of this that are that, and there are components of this that are the exact opposite of that.
Just correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding here. This is people of various colors worshiping white people.
Occasionally. Other times.
Okay.
Other times it's the exact opposite.
That's enough for me to be totally wrong and just an idiot. So I'm
Well,
excited.
from what I understand, there's so many different flavors of this.
Yes.
You can almost pick your dartboard and go.
Yeah, there are different versions of this.
This is going to be meaty.
Yeah. When I will say, when we first got the idea for this topic, I thought it was just going to be a real brief, weird, quirky kind of thing to go into, and it turns out, no, this is actually like a serious, complex thing, which I like. Much more to talk about.
I'm excited because instead of research, I played various Fallout games and went fishing. So this is just going to be an adventure for me.
All right.
And y'all know what I did.
Same thing you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Same thing we do every night.
Try to take over the world!
Slowly, with a podcast with 2 listeners.
All right. Strictly speaking, cargo cults can be defined. It's hard to come up with a fixed definition for them. The term itself is actually rather inapt, which we'll get to. Basically, the general idea is you have a group of native societies in the islands of Melanesia. That's like Papua New Guinea, the Solomons, Vanuatu, Fiji, that area.
See, I know where Fiji is, and if you hadn't gotten to there, I would have been lost.
Thank
God you know the globe to shotgun enough.
Yeah. It's the area between Australia and the main Asiatic continent, right?
No, wrong. Other direction. If you know where Australia is, it is to the northeast of Australia.
Oh, the kind of the trail leading over to Hawaii in the U.S.?
You know where Indonesia is?
Vaguely.
All right. Indonesia is right above Australia. Melanesia basically kind of follows a curve around the shape of Australia, kind of going off of where Indonesia is.
So kind of between Japan and, or even further out into the water.
If you take where Hawaii is and where Australia is, it's kind of in between those two, only much, much, much closer to Australia.
Okay. Where the
much
sun
closer
can,
to Australia. Whereas Polynesia is to the north of that. That's where things like the
Okay,
Marshall
cool.
Islands and Micronesia are.
Yeah,
But-
I know a fair amount of the history of the Polynesian stuff from the martial arts stuff I did, but it
But
never got
anyways.
into the other islands.
The two main areas we're going to talk about today are Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu. The two primary areas. Although these groups
It's
have been
just fun to say. Vanuatu.
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 If you put a character with that name in the Star Wars game, I'm going to burn you.
Damn, I was already planning it.
The idea of cargo cults started, as I said before, in the late 19th century when you had these native societies who hadn't yet really come into heavy contact with Europeans yet. This part of the world was one of the last to be colonized. Started coming into contact with Europeans who brought modern industrially produced goods with them. In large quantities of
Now, as
interchangeable
far as
parts and shit.
industrial goods, we're talking things like clothing and
Clothing,
Cheap steel goods.
clothing, steel goods, mass-produced anything.
Tools,
Food,
okay,
canned
yeah.
food, anything mass-produced.
Okay, gotcha.
Right?
Yeah,
And-
think about how much
Well,
better a
'cause I'm
ball
sure
peen's going to
most-
do than a rock hammer.
Well, I'm sure at this period in time, the locals are operating on like a Bronze Age standard.
Yeah, it varies. Not even that necessarily, depending on the exact place you're at.
Okay.
The different levels of
Very
contact. and different-
tribalism.
It's tribal societies. Yes.
Okay, yes, gotcha.
Different levels of previous European contact, depending on the exact one you're talking about. But
Okay.
Now, out of curiosity, with these being some of the last to be colonized, is it that they were too small to be taken before? They didn't have enough resources? Why were they?
they didn't have. They just did not have what the Europeans were looking for. Mostly, this was part of the same time as what was the scramble for Africa, where it was basically a matter of
fucking King Leopold's bullshit. Yeah.
where it was basically a matter of Europeans. One country would start to take something, and then everybody started taking everything that was left simply as a matter of prestige, where the resources didn't matter even as much. It was just a matter of
It's mine.
This is where it had become a game, not so much an actual meaningful form of governance.
Yeah. Also, specifically in the terms of the Pacific Islands, you now had modern iron ships that were running on coal, so they needed coaling stations. So you need all those islands for
okay.
coaling
You need fuel
stations,
Yeah.
depots everywhere.
right? To be able to get to
Okay.
the colonies in the mainland in
Okay,
Asia.
this is making more sense to me now. I
Yeah.
get it.
Also, in places like Papua New Guinea, it's this dense, which is a much larger island. Dense jungles in that. There's just groups that hadn't had contact with Europeans yet. Same way there are now, just because of how isolated it is.
Oh, you should seriously look up on YouTube pictures of Sentinelese tribes people, the people from Sentinel Island.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, yeah.
coming to the mainland and just wreaking havoc on shit. It's hilarious.
Like destroying stuff.
Like falling asleep in police guard sheds and like
Oh, God.
stealing food deliveries from the local supermarket.
jeez.
Oh no, it's fucking wonderful. Like it's every single like 90s Wild Child movie, but it's real.
Yeah. My favorite part of that story of that group is how there's a shipwreck off the coast that's like kickstarted their Iron Age because they started salvaging the boat. They'd never seen iron before.
okay.
We've brought up Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. Just something that I read recently that's been kicking around my skull that I have to throw out. Apparently monkeys, just through the amount of refuse they've repurposed that we've left around.
Oh
and
God,
just
they're
through-
evolving.
No, on
Yeah.
the trail of evolution. Monkeys are properly in the Stone Age right now.
They're using tools.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Good for them.
We've taught
Dude,
a lot of
isn't
them in
it? Like,
zoos and
isn't
stuff
that, like,
how
so
to use
fucking
tools.
cool?
Yeah, that's cool for them. Yeah. No,
Next is
Anyways.
the dolphins.
I'm so much more worried if the octopi ever unionize.
Oh God, yeah, the octopi are already at near human intelligence
Squids,
or past
cuttlefish,
human
they're a little too
intelligence.
cannibalistic. I would trust them to succumb to infighting. The octopi?
Well, while we wait for the octopi to become our new overlords,
Don't trust cephalopods, kids.
let's get back to cargo cults.
Never trust anything with tentacles.
Basically,
Aye, Cthulhu Fthagin.
basically, the idea with these guys is, upon coming into contact with the Europeans, their industrial capacity, combined with the earlier missions that have been sent in there, and introduced them to Western and Christian cultural ideas. This leads to several different types of synthesis of belief systems that are produced in response to this.
Well, Christianity has always enjoyed taking local customs, embracing them, and turning them around.
Well, in this case, it's more the other way around.
Interesting.
The natives adapting elements of Christianity that are similar to their own and kind of latching onto them, and although in other cases, I can't speak.
Hey, that's usually my
Involved-
job.
Don't worry. This is only an audio format. You're fine.
Yeah.
Well-
In other cases, it will involve the exact opposite. Again, the exact opposite reaction and rejection of Christianity and more of re-embracing of their native cultures.
Makes sense.
But and that is basically the two strains of this. There's a nativist strain and what do they call it? Hold on here.
We're prepared. Don't worry.
For appropriate levels of prepared.
Oh, here.
For a given value of the word prepared.
Right.
Oh, I can't find the word, but anyways,
How prepared we are.
yeah, but no, but
Season 2, y'all.
We got this down.
We're just on our shit today. No, but either like a nativist reaction where it causes them to form some sort of belief system that
Directly
that the gods of the ancestors will bring, and the cargo will bring about the removal of the Europeans.
Okay.
Or a modernizing. That's not I had a more fancy word I was going to use, but I couldn't find it on my sheet there. Where they will actually see the Europeans as the ones bringing about the new golden age, or the cargo, and bringing the cargo, and they're the ones who
There
are
were
to be
those who
embraced.
embraced it
So-
and those who rejected it.
Yeah.
So instead of being white saviors, it's that the white people are heralds of whatever the saving
Yeah.
force is.
Or getting in the way. There'll be an idea.
Depending on which side of the coin you pick. Yeah.
Because backing up a little, as the name would imply, in the earliest forms of these groups, the idea is that they believe that because they don't understand industrial production, that all this plentiful abundance of goods must be being brought about by magical means. And these are societies that are where spirituality and the belief in the power of the ancestors is very
Any
ingrained.
technology significantly advanced is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
Norse god syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Are they aliens? Could be. Or were they just more powerful people with higher technology coming to visit? Atlantia!
Okay, now we know that you have trash taste in movies.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Atlantis.
So they
Whatever.
like I said, it usually breaks down one of two ways. That they would think that either the ancestors were trying to send them this abundance of goods, and the crafty Europeans were somehow using magical ways to hijack it and take it from them.
Damn white people.
Yeah, basically. Or the other way around, that it was the white people themselves who were using magic and spells to produce the goods.
Right. Well, because they don't understand things like...
Mechanization. And
yeah.
So this leads to...
Now, was there
Things like
any
the
attempt?
automocar.
Was there any attempt by colonial forces to teach these people about industry at all, or were they just like, yeah, no, I magicked up some shit. You have to pay extra for the magic shit.
No, that was the missionaries.
Well, he has a point with the missionaries, which were kind of
It's
an
all
earlier
God.
wave. Missionaries have been in these islands before the actual colonization.
Missionaries tend to get everywhere.
Yeah.
Like a bad rash.
So,
It's almost as if they were on a mission of some sort.
like you said, a lot.
Almost as if it were from some sort of deific theological figure.
They can't stop us. We're on a mission from God.
But the
Blues
missionaries,
Brothers.
Wrong inflection. You're not wearing sunglasses, and it's not night. So you know what?
No, but I do have cigarettes. About half a pack.
Do you hate Illinois Nazis?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay.
I don't think you had to put Illinois at the beginning of that, but yes.
and there's our Godwin for the day. Although I may have one later on.
I argue that that's not a Godwin. That was a straight quote from the movie on my end.
You said the word Nazis. It's a Godwin.
It's a quote.
It's a reference to Nazis. It's still a Godwin.
That still follows the rules of
all right.
Godwinning.
All right, fine.
Just embrace it, Nick. Embrace the fact that
Tell
that's
me
part
more
of our
about the
podcast.
magical white
We
people,
Godwin.
Alan. Tell me more about the magical white people.
Well, they brought cargo, you see.
Right. Anyway, but so in response to this, seeing that these Europeans were supposedly magically producing this cargo, or taking it from them when it's coming from their ancestors, they basically, through observation of the Europeans, decided that the things that they saw them doing must be how they're doing it. So they started mimicking these things. So
This is going to sound terrible due to choice of sayings, but monkey see, monkey do, basically.
in a sense, yes.
Imitation is the...
It's kind of like the rifle butt clubs that Native Americans started making immediately after first contact with Europeans. They just see guys with muskets go out, they see it make a huge noise, and this thing drops. They just know the shape of it.
Trying to remember the exact wording, but something about imitation being the...
Better part of
sincerest form of
yeah,
flattery.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's the cultured way to say it.
Although that's not quite what it is. It's more practical than that in the sense of, no, we're trying to learn. We are trying to teach ourselves the methods, the practical methods, because for them, doing religious ceremonies and stuff like that would be like science or mathematics. It's just that's the code of how the world works.
Globally, that's how religion's always been interpreted.
Yeah, so it's practical in their day-to-day lives.
There are still
Yeah.
people who interpret the Bible literally. There are people fighting COVID lockdown because they believe Jesus
But,
suffered their illnesses.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like when they'll do magical stuff that isn't about the salvation of souls. It's, no, I need to make my crops grow, so conducting this ritual is no more a practical thing for me than actually plowing the soil. It's just a day-to-day kind of thing. So they see people, like they'll see the Europeans, one of the first ones they see there are the army guys. So they will start taking the uniforms or making mock uniforms and start marching around like the soldiers would.
That's awesome.
As a ceremony.
Uniforms. I want to see tribal cosplay.
When we get later on into the 20th century, when airplanes start showing up and start dropping off, it's more like you were talking about with the World War II stuff. They'd start carving out airstrips, runways, and building mock towers.
Like they saw the Americans
In a
and the
literal
Japanese
version
doing.
of, if you build it, they will come.
Please tell me someone eventually
that's
used
awesome.
this shit with a shitty bush plane or something.
Oh, I'm sure
Please
somebody
tell
did.
me this effort was rewarded. I have to believe this worked minimally once.
I'm sure it did.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of these was used
There is-
vaguely. Now, mind you, they didn't know what they were doing. They just cleared out ground areas without,
Well, I assume
for
they noticed
paving
enough that it needed to be like smooth. I mean,
Yeah, well, but they didn't necessarily have the resources or the ability to do that. It was mimicry more than an absolute
I'm
duplicate
not
of.
saying a good plane. I'm saying a bush plane.
Yeah.
Anything.
Although again, the closer to modern times you get with this, the more contact they've had, the more a proper version of it they would be building. I mean, early on, there's a story of one group who
I want to meet the air traffic control guy for one of these groups.
who because they would
I
also
want to know
believe
what his day-to-day is.
3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, he runs out onto the large airstrip and waves his hands around like crazy.
Oh, no. I just picture it's like the old TV show Wings, but like everyone has a goofy accent and I don't understand the language they're speaking.
I was thinking more MASH, but yeah.
You don't want to see South Pacific version Tony Shalhoub? Come on, man.
Well, but he already said they were already imitating military. That leads more to MASH than wings.
I'm pretty sure they weren't imitating MASH units. Pretty sure.
Yeah, wrong time period.
Yeah. But, was one story I saw of, because they would also see Western objects as having some sort of magical or spiritual power to them.
Artifacts of these magic people.
They would try to make these objects, and in Crude's way of like trying to make a radio out of a couple of coconuts and some straw.
Hey,
Gilligan's
the
Island
professor
style.
did it.
Yeah.
The professor did it. I know it can be done.
Yeah.
If they failed, that's on them.
Yeah. No, but like this was the earliest version of this, where it was purely mostly a reaction to seeing this new stuff for a time. Later on, it would take on a much more anti-colonial aspect to it.
Which I want to hear a lot more about.
Yeah, anti-colonial as in very...
As in, we don't like the people who just conquered us.
Please tell me of the revolution,
Okay, gotcha.
Alan.
Yeah. And like I said, this would be could take form in either version of it. Where obviously, mostly it's a matter of, if we perform all these rituals the right way or whatever, and bring in the cargo that eventually, through enough of these rituals or through the return of a messianic figure, a lot of these develop messianic or millenarian, I think is the word.
Millenarian.
Is that like melanoma?
From the word millennium or millennial in Christian
thank
theology.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. I spend too much time on the shitty parts of the internet. My mind goes to bad places immediately.
Yeah, no, basically a belief system in an inevitable coming golden age or utopia or something, brought about by the return of a messianic
So what you're
figure.
saying is, at present, they were just breathing heavy?
And that, like I said, they could be either that the dawning of this era will drive away the Europeans, or like you said, that the Europeans were a herald of it, that the Europeans were going to bring it about.
Which one of these views was more predominant?
Oh, the anti-colonial strain.
Okay,
definitely.
I'm so
Makes
curious
sense.
about this. I love hearing about colonies rising up because our history education is very brief on the subject of other colonies.
Yeah, no. When we go over some of these specific groups that I've looked up, I'm pretty sure all of those are anti-colonial. Some violently so.
Which colonies are we talking about here? British colonies,
these
Asian
were
colonies,
British and
American
French.
colonies?
I was
Okay.
about to say I would presume French. They were
Primarily-
some of the last to get out of the game.
Yeah.
Properly British, mostly British. Vanuatu, which used to be called the New Hebrides when it was a colony, was a joint condominium colony, jointly ruled by the British and the French.
How awful was their homeowners association?
Don't think they had a homeowners association.
It was a condominium. They definitely had a homeowners association.
Different condominium. This is the British. They're using different words the wrong way.
Technically, we're the ones that use the words the wrong way
We're
as uncultured Americans.
We're Americans. We do nothing the wrong way. The rest of the world does.
The one that would vote for Reagan if he could. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, and
Hey,
it is
if-
kind of
if
the
they
current
if they manage-
stance of the government.
If they manage to get that corpse up on a podium, damn right I
He
would.
can't serve a third term,
Not in the
Alan.
same body. That's
No,
why
yeah.
we need robots.
No body. We need the Nixon Futurama approach. Get the man a robot body.
All right, if we are bringing anyone back specifically for the purposes of placing them in political office, George motherfucking Carlin. He will be fair. Tough, but fair. We will all have food, we will all have booze, and we will all have a roof to enjoy those things under.
I don't know.
Drugs will come at a small surcharge.
I kind of want to see Zombie Lincoln.
All right. Anyways, like another.
Let him finish out his term.
Yeah. So, cargo
moving
cults.
on.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, we could use
Moving
the Great
on.
Emancipator right now.
Moving on. Another aspect.
And he was a Republican.
Another.
We're not going to touch that.
Do I need to start screaming?
Yes.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
That
Yes,
may
we
be
shall.
the only way.
So that took us up through the end of World War II
Well,
and
this
some of
is-
the weird stuff going on.
We're not going on a linear timeline here.
Oh, okay.
This is not a
We're
linear
just
timeline.
talking in general.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's too varied to try to do a linear timeline on this.
I gotcha.
Another factor with the cultures that factors into this, it gives you kind of a perspective, is what they refer to as big man culture.
Big man.
And basically the idea that the way like power and prestige worked, a lot of these groups, was through gift giving. You gave out gifts, and then that person was entitled
Okay.
to you.
Christmas
Right.
every day.
And obviously, if you had more stuff, you could give out more
Gifts.
Get more gifts. You had more people who were
Prestige.
more prestige, more people who owed you, right? People who weren't like didn't have stuff to give out were referred to as rubbish men,
They were in debt.
right? These are people who
They
Well,
owed.
correct me if I'm wrong. At this point in time, being broke was still a crime in England at this point in time.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that was
crime?
gone by the 1900s.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
being broke being a crime.
That's literally why Australia exists.
Throughout
Most
the
of the people-
1800s,
most of the
that's
people
not
there
being
went
bro-
over
there
there
were poverty
sent
laws.
over
That's
there
not-
for poverty infractions where they owed
those
the
were
state.
debtors.
Debtors.
Those
It's not
were
being poor.
debtor laws.
That's people being
If
in
you're
debt.
in debt, you're probably poor.
Yeah, but you
But
were
not everyone who
you-
was poor was
all right.
in debt.
Yeah, if they were shipping everyone who was just poor over there because it was a crime to be poor, London would have been empty.
No,
Yeah.
they also put the rapists and the murderers on there too.
But you're right. It did start
And
as a
the
prison
excess
colony.
sheep fuckers. They're only allowed 5
Anyway.
per square
Anyways,
mile.
in a line with this, the sort of the big man culture, all of a sudden when these Europeans arrived, they had a ton of shit,
Right.
which kind of gave a lot of them an inferiority complex because we're all just rubbish men compared to them.
Right, right.
So you also got to take that into account, and that was kind of part of the
Okay.
factored into this here.
It's kind of fucked up psychologically.
Yeah. As you move more into the 20th century, like I said, these groups take on more religious and anti-colonial aspects, where you have like a messianic figure or a prophet, somebody who's preaching as head of the group, would often be preaching that they were in contact with the ancestors, or that they had seen somebody, or eventually
There's
there'd be a
always
legend
one.
of somebody who did do this beforehand. Although some of these people actually were based off real human beings.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't one of these worship the British monarchy, specifically Prince Charles? Isn't it?
It was Philip, and we'll get that.
Okay.
We will get to that.
So, yes, they were real figures.
Yeah, but it's an interesting blend of real world stuff combined with the spiritual stuff.
Interesting.
They would, like I said, you had two responses. Either they would try to bring about advocate for a resurgence of cultural, traditional values, rejecting Christianity, rejecting the modern world, or rather they would embrace those things as having spiritual magical powers. Like I said,
One side or the other of the coin.
yeah.
You're either for or against.
They got real. They like I said, they existed since the 19th century. The first one that was ever like really studied or touched upon started around I want to say 1919. Yeah, it began in 1919. It was called the Valhalla. The Valhalla. I'm
Valhalla.
pronouncing Vaillall. ALA.
Velal.
The
Velala.
word Valhalla. Valhalla movement.
Valhalla.
It was called the Valhalla
I like it.
Madness. And that
Just out
appeared
of
in,
curiosity, did you check a pronunciation guide?
I did not.
Just a thought for next time.
Watch is pronounced like Will or something like that.
I'm pretty sure most Melanesian words are pronounced vaguely close to the English pronunciations of letters, based on past experience. I could be wrong.
I'm
Because
still
they-
not sure whether X is a Z or an S in Chinese. I don't
Because
fucking
they
Very
use
different
a
languages,
different
though.
alphabet.
The Pacific Islander cultures and East Asian language is very, very different. Very different.
It's because
Apples
they
and
I'm not
use
saying they're
different.
not. I'm saying I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah.
No, I actually have a bit of knowledge for this for once.
Oh God.
Right. Start the end times.
For kids?
They use different alphabets, and because the translations aren't exact, a lot of times when you see something written in English, they write it phonetically because that's the closest they can get to an actual translation from their characters and figures. You should actually know this from your Japanese.
The Romaji favors the mother tongue, not what it's loaning from. You still have to understand Japanese phonetics to be able to read it correctly.
A lot of the ones in Polynesia and that area, they tend to, the difference is phonetic because there is no direct translation between their
Yeah,
characters and our
that has been my
characters.
observation as well. The little bit of knowledge I have on that is how it works. But anyways, yeah, the
Ben's
Valhalla,
knowledge time.
Valhalla Madness, 1919. This was one of the first ones. They actually had people who were early anthropologists actually properly trying to scientifically study these groups.
people.
You know, I mean, obviously with all the caveat and the baggage of the views of Eastern
as
cultures
As
that
much as
existed at that
science can
time.
be called science at that point in time.
Yeah, you know,
They had
but
a science. It's not the science we know now, but
Early-
it was a science.
early science, early versions of the science.
So 3/4 nonsense, 1/8 logic, and the rest just, no, Mercury.
But like I said, they
and
do
cocaine.
they do become kind of like at their peak with World War II, because that's when you had
Well, you
U.S.
all the
and
heavy
Japanese,
munitions out there.
well, U.S. and Japanese soldiers coming to these islands and bringing all that stuff with them, building the airfields, building all that stuff. The soldiers marching around, giving the locals,
Ideas.
large amounts of food and supplies and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden they just all up and leave because the war is over.
Leaving all the
I know.
natives abandoned with this idea of a larger society that they have no idea how it works.
Yeah, and all this stuff. All this stuff was here, which led to a lot of ideas of that people, the Europeans or some ancestor of theirs would return or bring back the Europeans, and they
And bring back all this cool
more,
stuff.
More on the abundance of stuff. Although, and it got to the point in certain cases where if they believed this sort of thing was going to be imminent, they would do things like, because obviously the end times are coming, they did what people who believe the end times are coming are doing. They stopped planting their fields, destroyed resources,
What was
burned their
sign?
money. Huh?
What was their sign?
That all of these
Well,
people
it varied.
left.
Well, it would vary depending on
Culture.
individual group, but that the Europeans had been there was a sign, and that they would be coming again. That
The old ones left. Their messengers left. What are we to do? This is the end times.
yeah, in most of these cases, it was usually the coming of the Europeans in large numbers was the harbinger, the beckoner of the times, and that if they performed the rituals right and all that, the abundance would come, or the Europeans would leave. In some weird instances, which I found weird, and I got to give a caveat with this, the only firm article I could find that had this piece of information in it was from the 50s. So take this with a huge grain of salt.
I'm already assuming it's pure fiction, but go on.
I also
It'll
saw
be
it
interesting at least.
I believe I also saw it on.
Dude, you know the thing about lemmings running off of cliffs? No, that's Disney throwing small animals off of a cliff to make a movie.
It was also
Disney
a video
made
game.
that.
It was also a video game.
Yeah.
Awesome video games.
1000% not the point.
Yeah, but I also I believe I saw it on Wikipedia, but that's Wikipedia. So, again, grain of salt. That some of these
I trust
cultures,
Wikipedia more than I trust 50s, man.
that some of these cultures believed that In one case, it was an idea that when their ancestors returned, they would be white. I don't know. So I guess that
Why?
I don't that because they were part of the. They connected that with the group of people who have the power to do this.
There's
are
literally
white, so
an
our ancestors
episode.
must have been.
There's literally an episode of the Boondocks with this shit where Uncle Russ goes to heaven, meets Ronald Reagan, and gets turned white. This is literally a thing.
Yeah, the more weirder,
apparently it was a thing before that too.
Well, the weirder version of this is, in one particular case, I saw somebody where they said that when the end times came and the Europeans were driven off, the races would basically flip. The natives would all turn white, and the Europeans would all turn native.
Why?
I don't know. The implication seems to be that the whiteness is a sign of the utopian or whatever thing or whatever.
Oh, there's been quite a few people with that viewpoint. Most of
Yeah.
them we've kind of universally risen up and said, sit back down.
Yeah, so it's one of those things.
Mostly when they take things too far, but yeah.
I mean, it goes in line with some of the belief systems that come out of this, with the idea that the Europeans have some sort of spiritual power or whatever, and that's how they can do this. But again, 50s.
Right.
I could totally see
There's
this being
definitely
something
a slant on that.
got added on by a bunch of racist Europeans.
There's definitely a slant
So
to that.
I mention it out of thoroughness and because it's such a weird sounding thing. But yeah, if anybody out there knows better and that is utter bullshit, I apologize. I apologize for bringing it up.
Get back to us on this.
Yeah, if you want to comment on Twitter or something like that you have proof that that's utter bullcrap, please let us know, and I will say something at a later date.
Kids.
But
We like
yeah.
talking to our Twitter friends.
So yeah, but yeah. Let me see here. I
Any
think we
more
pretty much
general
covered.
knowledge,
I
or
believe
shall we
we've
start
pretty
talking
much.
about specifics?
Yeah, I believe we've pretty much covered
All right,
all the
let's-
general stuff.
Yeah,
I
let's-
think
let's-
we're about
so
ready
get
what
to.
some of these
specifics
juicy
do you
shits.
have?
Come on.
I mean, Nick, you're the one who originally brought this.
No, I'm not.
Weren't you? I thought
Nope,
you brought
this was my idea.
Okay, this was yours.
Yeah.
Okay, for some reason I thought you had at least some information
Yeah.
on this.
No, I knew that there was a cult that worshipped one of the British princes, but yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing I will say in general, the term cargo cult can apply in the meaning of both those words to some of these groups. There are other groups that fall into this category that do not fall into
It's
what you
kind
would
of a
mean.
catch-all term, and a
The-
lot of them aren't specifically about cargo.
They don't involve actual tangible cargo, and they are by no means cults, what you would consider to be a cult.
Okay.
There's a controversy in the anthropological thank you, community going back to the 70s, I think, over the use of that term. Some still use it, others consider it to be inappropriate. I couldn't find
Hi,
any.
welcome to language.
Yeah, I couldn't find like an actual substitute name specifically for these groups. So I'm just going with cargo cult for now, but be aware that is it is a imprecise term.
Don't worry, you're the one using a pejorative term. We're just making jokes at your expense. Don't worry. You were always here to be the sacrificial lamb.
I thought that was Ben.
No, he's just a guilt-free idiot. People will identify with him.
I thought
would
we had
definitely
I
say
thought there
guilt-free,
was a
but-
term for that, scapegoat.
That's only when you actually try to pin something on someone.
No, he's
I'm
like
free
the
and
large,
clear.
dumb animal that's more expensive but isn't smart enough or fast enough to get away from like the predators. So we have to put them with a scapegoat.
And the other one.
I'm
being,
the reason for the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the prime rib. You're the goat cheese.
No. The other thing would be that most of these have since died out. Some of them died out even before World War II.
You said
Others died
this
out.
was like 1920s, 80, 100 years
Yeah,
of.
They peaked after World
is
War
a
II.
long time.
Yeah, they peaked after World War II, basically.
The fact that there's still any is flabbergasting.
Oh, and they probably started later. These seem like short-run things.
Well, because of the largely anti-colonial aspect of them, once these countries all started gaining independence, that took
It
away a lot
kinda
of the motivation for
went
them.
away.
When the modern world really started to intrude, they get people got TV and telephones and all that stuff became much more prominent.
You mean once the white man came back?
Once the white man brought all his cool toys.
In all fairness,
let the natives use them.
It was
Right.
probably the yellow man because we ain't
Well,
made shit
true.
since about
it
1960.
was probably
Yeah.
either people from Australia or people from the Asiatic areas.
Although, as a note,
Maybe Polynesians.
they said
I don't
we
know
talk
if
about
they
this
count as
being
Asiatic.
peaking in World War II. Actually, they actually had similar responses to the Japanese at first. Now, of course, the Japanese usually started and end up treating them really, really horribly because that's what the Japanese imperialists did,
Japan
and that
was
kind of
really bad
went away.
with colonies.
Yeah, but at first, when they first got there, they had similar positive responses until they started being horrible, even more
Because they
horrible than the
look
Europeans.
very different from what they previously saw as their white people infatuation thing.
Well, you also got to remember these groups are all isolated. There'd be people in this area who Japanese would have been the first ones I saw.
Yeah, there's just somebody
Yeah.
new coming to their village
Yeah.
in this generation.
Plenty of people who wouldn't have actually ever seen a European at this point.
Hey,
They also
Asian
wouldn't-
version of Cletus. There's somebody different for us to not like.
No, and the Japanese were just as much a colonial power at that point than the Europeans, the Europeans were.
The Japanese were terrible to all of their colonies, even
yeah.
places like Okinawa, which you would think, no, that's Japan, that's properly Japan. Not to people from the other islands. It
Really?
ain't.
Yeah.
Yep, Okinawa
I
started as a
thought
colony.
Okinawa
It is
was, like,
still
core
it is
Japan.
still culturally somewhat isolated, and a lot of people still actually hold resentments towards Okinawans, viewing them as sort of backwoods people.
They're the Japanese rednecks?
Kind of, sort of, not real. They're fishermen. They're hardy people.
Yeah, they're the hill people.
No, because they had hill people and their main island. Those are the. No,
Moving on.
this is like when I try to explain the difference between swamp people, hill folk, and wood people.
All right. So
Tell us more
some
about
of these
these
groups,
cults.
some of these groups still do exist today in one form or another. Although most of them don't look anything like they did back in the day.
Well, because there's a whole lot more contact now, I would
Well,
imagine.
yeah. They mostly morph into either like an established church of some kind or political movements, actual political parties that kind of shed a lot of the some of the spiritual stuff and take on a more political aspect. I have highlighted 5 specific groups or movements
Okay.
that I want to go over. They kind of give you a nice sampling of the variety of the different types of
Give
things
us the
we're
most
talking about here.
violent first. I want the most heinous, reprehensible group with the worst viewpoint.
See, I'd save that for last.
We'll get-
No. We want the wackiest group last.
They're
They're
kind of the
probably
same
both
thing.
the same.
It's kind of the same thing. We will get there.
love it.
So
We will get to
we
these
will
people.
get there.
That is the one that's going to qualify the most as cult. When we get to that
Start
one.
us off with something easy.
Specifically, I mentioned them already. The Valhalla Madness was the first real big one. First one that we have any real hard data or knowledge on.
That was the 1919.
Began 1919 in the aftermath of World War I,
Okay.
which you did have a little bit of contact there. Northern New Guinea was a German colony
Okay.
for a number of
Oh.
years, way back before World War
Okay.
I. And it didn't see a lot of action. Basically, when war was declared, the Australians, who controlled the southern half of the island, just marched up, took it over, and just sat there for the rest of the war.
Said, hey, this is ours. Bye.
Well, because
I assume they handed Fosters to the conquered forces. Just aye.
yeah,
When
the-
was Foster's?
I don't know and I don't care.
I know it's early 1900s.
I don't
but
know and I don't
not
care.
relevant. Moving on.
It's Australian.
Beer
for
is
beer.
always
It's
relevant.
Australian for beer. That's all you need to know. And what qualifies as a knife.
Crikey.
This one has a specific individual attached to it as a prophet. An old man whose name was Evara, Evara,
Avara.
Avara?
Sounds right.
who started prophesying that a steamer ship would come with the souls of their ancestors on it, along with large quantities of European goods.
Ooh, nice.
So that was going to bring about.
Our dead are coming back to us, and they're bringing us cool shit.
They
Isn't that kind of the ultimate point of Judaism?
I don't know enough about Judaism to say one way or the other.
This was one of the groups that kind of abandoned their native traditions as part of the summoning of the Europeans there.
Okay, so this was completely different from what they did before, and they just kind of abandoned the old ways and took up this new.
They were
belief
preaching
under the
that
prophet.
abandonment of the old ways and adopting European customs and stuff would be a way to bring about.
Okay, this is the
this
group
event.
you're talking about that was making mock military outfits and marching up and down and that kind of thing.
That
They're
behavior
trying
is
to imitate European clothing.
that behavior cuts across a broad swathe of these groups.
Okay. There were a bunch that did that.
Everything I pretty much talked about so far is generic stuff that applies to multiple, if not all, of these groups.
Okay, I gotcha.
Now we're
Now
getting
we're getting into the
nitty-gritty.
specifics. Specific to this
Gotcha.
group.
Gotcha.
So
they did all that other
This is what
stuff.
makes them
This is
special,
just
like
more.
snowflakes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they weren't building airfields yet because it was 1919. They weren't.
Right.
You know,
This was
planes in
World
this
War
part of
I
the world.
era level.
Yeah, planes had not become a huge thing in this
Were
part
they,
of the world
were they
yet.
building Zeppelin docking spikes?
No,
Not likely.
No.
but
Zeppelins never saw any use in the.
in this part of the world, I don't
Pacific.
think. Yeah,
They definitely
They
saw
never
use
had-
over Europe. but
Zeppelins went everywhere.
I don't believe you
I
ever
don't
had
believe they
Zeppelins
were seen
in the Pacific Isles like this.
Pacific Theater.
By the time you would have had air travel regular in any way coming to this part of the world, the Zeppelins were already kind of dead as a thing. But I could be wrong. But as far
No,
as I
I'm
know,
pretty sure you're right.
yeah, these places were so remote, you really didn't have a reason for it.
Family in the Air Force, I know I know more about airplanes than I know about any other military anything.
Some
but-
of the military units might have had like reconnaissance aircraft. That would have been about it.
All I know is that the Baron von Zeppelin company in Germany boasted global flights.
Yeah, just not this part of the globe.
Yeah.
Then how is it global, Alan?
Okay, the little
Global just means going around. It doesn't mean
They have to
go
over this
everywhere.
place to get to Australia, don't they? Australia's a place.
No.
Or are you trying to say
Not from
Australia
Europe, they
doesn't
don't.
exist?
Not from
Don't
Europe,
be silly.
they don't.
Everybody knows it's New Zealand that doesn't exist. That is a
Dude, this is hot fire on the Australia doesn't exist conspiracy. This is incredible. I need to know your evidence.
This is
We'll
it.
have
Another
an episode
episode.
about
Another
that.
episode.
But no, Nick, check your map. They don't have to go over this area to get from Europe to Australia. This is the
no,
other
they don't.
side.
But anyways,
Only way they would be going over this area with Zeppelins is if they were going from Australia to America. Or the Americas, I should say. So no reason for them to have ever seen Zeppelins.
although I believe this group was based in New Guinea, but which was the one German colony. But again, way off topic.
Sticking by my Zeppelin argument, damn it.
You do that. As part of their rejection of the traditional native cultures, they would start adapting a more strict moral code.
Okay. Certain things are wrong now.
Cracking down on
Now, did
very
that more
specifically
align with the
sexual behavior?
religious because of the missionaries?
Yeah.
Okay.
They adapted some
So
of that
they
sort
adapted
of
more of the
Christian strict
Christian
moral
morality.
code. Yeah, Christian morality code. Like I said, abandon it. They would stop performing their traditional ceremonies. They would actually nullify like sacred objects by bringing them out to be seen by people who normally weren't allowed to see them. They would kind of taint their own cultural
Old
objects.
religious
icons.
Okay.
You know, I guess that would be the equivalent of spitting on the altar.
Yeah, it kind of thing.
Going into
yeah.
a church and turning the cross upside down.
To quote Kylo Ren, sometimes you have to grip the past and kill it.
Yeah, pretty much. They would do, like you mentioned, mimicking the European traditions.
The actual quote was grip the past and
Shut
squeeze.
up, I'm gonna kill you. I know where you live, motherfucker.
Well, yeah, you're sitting in my studio.
Because it's definitely not a garage.
Green screen. Green screen.
But
Hey, we have the green table.
Stop getting meta.
So they were one of the ones that mimicking European traditions, specifically tea drinking. Like they mimic Europeans sitting down to a cup of tea
Okay.
as a thing. And
Did they have biscuits?
also they would do a
Yeah,
thing.
but they were actually biscuits, not cookies, so it made no fucking sense.
They would do a thing where they would start sitting at tables on stools, which is something completely anathema to a lot of those cultures.
Right.
They don't sit up on stools at
Tables and
shit.
stools and chairs, I would
Yeah,
imagine,
it's
weren't a thing
the
they
only
did.
reason they would do it. Yeah,
They might lay a log down for a bench, but
yeah. And this group,
well, tree.
this particular group was prominent from about 1919 to 1922, and then finally died out around 1931.
Okay.
So that's an example of one of the ones that kind of embraced worshiped the Europeans or whatever. I mentioned it largely died out because that attitude was no longer popular.
Right.
But another one, now this is probably the most famous one. You look up cargo cults, this is the first thing I think that usually pops up in like a Google search. And that's the John Froome movement.
John Froome.
F-R-U-M. That's how it's
John
usually spelled.
Froome.
I
Yeah.
think
Possibly
there's a band
from.
called the John Froome Society.
Interesting.
This is the most
I'll have
prominent
to look
one.
it up.
That or I'm thinking
well-known
of a Venture
one.
Brothers reference. It's one of the two.
All right.
No, I'm thinking the John Fru brothers from Metalocalypse.
You are.
Don't listen to me, I'm an idiot.
You are.
All right. This one began at least in the 1930s. It may have origins in some earlier version of the group. Prior to that, it's not really well known. Although it took its predominant form during and after World War II.
Okay.
On the island of Tanna in Vanuatu, which then was the British colony of New Hebrides. New Hebrides.
Hebrides.
Yeah, that's what it was called back then.
Okay.
In its modern incarnation, fully formed incarnation, centers around a John Froome, who was supposedly an American GI, who was on the island and basically promised and was prophesied to return, bringing the abundance of cargo.
Okay.
And
He was their
Western
messenger from the
civilization.
gods. He was the one
Yeah.
who was going to bring it all back.
I didn't get an exact. There's no exact name. They have kind of pinned down the possibility that this John Froome guy might have been based on some actual individual, either
Okay,
an
but
actual
we don't
American
know who
or
it
some other
was.
native guy who got that label applied to him. But there is no definitive name. Kind of like
Okay.
Arthur.
Did he force a lanky native to wear his brother's death mask?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, different guys. Definitely different guys.
Doesn't sound like it. This movement advocates the exact opposite of the Lala movement. It wants to see a return to traditional values, a return to traditional beliefs and ways of doing things, a rejection of, oddly enough, a rejection of Western culture and political rule. Eventually, a rejection of colonial rule, while simultaneously being about a utopia of the coming of Western goods. So they're
They
looking
didn't
to
like
get
the
Western,
way they did stuff, but they wanted their stuff.
Yeah, best I understand it. They were some of the ones who would build the runways, observation towers, donning the military uniforms. They raised the American flag every Friday
Really?
as part of their cultural, that's their holy day. So they raise the American
All right,
flag.
if you're worshiping white people, that is the most successful grouping of white people.
Especially at that time.
Just
and I
via
wanna-
empirical
All
standards.
right, and I want to clarify, because you keep saying it this way, and I want to make sure we're clear. They're not worshiping white people here. Quite the opposite. They believe that, because at the end of the day, they're one of these
John
groups that
Froome
believes-
is bringing them stuff, but
Yeah,
they
John
don't
Froome,
like the
he's
white
an American, but he's going to be bringing all these goods, but these goods are coming from the ancestors. It's the ancestors that are causing all this. The Europeans are just the omen or the vessel for it in this case.
Speed
they
bump
don't
on the way.
like the Europeans being there.
I feel this is I understand this
They're
is
the
a
messengers.
ends justifying means thing, But it still has some weird fucking shades, man.
It does. And like I said, there are other versions where the Europeans are seen as the spiritual beings. I want to be clear on who we're talking about.
This is not one of them.
These people still exist. I do not want to label them as being people who worship white people when they're not that. I don't want to do that. So, just being clear.
You just want to still be white when their religion is proved correct and everybody swaps. That's what this is.
I don't believe. Actually, I'm not sure if this was the. I didn't because how shady it was. I didn't write down which group specifically that applied to. I don't believe it was the John Frum Society. I don't believe so.
All right,
But
go on.
certainly not the modern incarnation of it.
All right, what's our next bit of nonsense? Come
What's
on.
the next one on the list?
All right, what was still going on in the John Frum group?
Okay, there's
this is
more.
This is one of the more prominent ones. There's quite a bit on these guys. Like I said, they raise the American flag every Friday. This still happens. Their group.
Okay, they're one of the ones that are still around.
They are still around.
Okay.
They are
so-
very much around.
So were they raising the flag pre-Alaska Hawaii, or did they ever have to update the flag?
I don't know
I
if
just
they-
really hope there's somewhere where
Which
they're flying
flag it
a
is?
48-starred flag.
It could be. I know the original custom started when they got American flags out of old Army surplus, which I very much would have had 48 stars on it. I don't know if they still use those same flags or if they've updated the flags. I don't know.
I really hope it's 48-starred flags.
It could be. I don't know
No
if they're still
clue.
using the same flag or not. But
I'm of the opinion there should only be 49. We stole a bunch of land
It's-
that should belong to Canada.
it's basically a religious ceremony, so I can see them keeping the original flag if it stayed intact long enough. But yeah,
It's
Possibility for
It's
another
almost
one.
like
Six or
it's
seven,
almost like a
if you
quaint
count
version
all
of
the
people trying to reappropriate the "Don't
colonies
Tread
we
on Me"
still own.
flag.
yeah. It's like I said, it's on this one island of Tana. That's right, Tana in Vanuatu, which actually has several of them. The island of Tana has actually produced a number of these groups over the years.
Okay.
I know
They keep
why specific-
updating their beliefs.
Yeah, it's
It started
Some
with
of them
one
have coexisted.
really charismatic guy, and then he had a sudden heart attack, and there was a power struggle for the followers.
I believe there's another one that might still exist that worships or has a similar belief about a guy whose name is something Navy, who is allegedly a U.S. sailor who did something similar.
Something maybe, who works in the Navy.
So
Okay.
what else we got on these guys?
February 15th, which is allegedly the day, that is their it's John Frum Day. It is an official
Okay,
national.
It is their.
Yeah, I believe it's an
Big
official
deal.
national holiday in Vanuatu. It's like an official holiday.
Well,
It's
if
become
it's
a
an
thing.
official
Now, if-
religion for them, yeah.
When we say official holiday, if there's fewer than 10,000 people celebrating it, I don't believe it's any more of a holiday than a Facebook
Well,
holiday.
what do they
The number
do
is
on
around
this
6,000.
What do they do
Okay,
on this
more
holiday?
people participate and talk like a pirate day. I'm not prepared to acknowledge that as a holiday
So-
on any level.
What do
They
they
need to
do
get
for
their
this
social
holiday?
media game
Okay.
on.
Do they get the day off? Do they throw
Well,
parties? Do
I
they
mean,
get
on that level, I don't know.
smashed?
I mean, at this point, it is on a national level. It's most people. It's kind of like Guy Fawkes Day or something like that, where it's not really about what it started as. It's just a
Okay,
day
they
to have a
don't.
fun
They
time.
observe it, but they don't really
Yeah.
shut everything down. It's not like Christmas.
Yeah. Now, in this one village, which I did not write the name of it down, unfortunately. Also,
Professional.
I don't think I would have been able to pronounce it even if I did. So
Double professional.
that exists on the island, which is where most of the 6,000 group of followers congregate, live. They still do practice the customs and all that. The biggest thing is like a military parade. They get up and they dress in, I think white shirts that have T-A USA written on them in red. And they do like
Tits and ass USA.
it's
TNA. All the TNA.
Pardon me, I didn't say that first. The TA stands for the Tana Army, which is the name of this group.
Okay,
They're
Tana
not
Army.
actually a military group. They're not like violent or anything. But they basically get together on February 15th and
Throw a parade.
and they do a military-style parade with like sticks and stuff like that, ceremonial sticks and all that. As you know,
Please
the
tell me you
culmination of the
found
custom.
video footage of this.
I did not find video footage of it. I found a couple of still photos of some of these guys just kind of standing around on the day, but I did not find actual video footage. Although I might be able to. They are open with tourists. They will invite if you're a tourist.
Of
and you
course
come to this
they
country.
are.
Well, everyone likes tourists.
Well,
and
not
tourist
all
money.
these groups are like that. Some of these groups like still live out in the jungle, and they're very tend to be somewhat xenophobic.
Makes sense.
But yeah, with these guys, it's very much a
Well, you said this is a very
Engraved.
large group on a major island.
6,000 people in a country that numbers. I think the island itself has about 26,000 people on it. The country
Yeah,
has got maybe a couple hundred
Decently
thousand.
sized enough that they take in tourists.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
6,000 people in a population that size is a pretty hefty portion of the population.
Yeah.
And those are the like firm adherents. Everybody in it's kind of, like I said, it's a thing in Vanuatu. It's something
Right.
everybody in that country is aware of, and kind of goes along with like Irish Americans and St. Patrick's Day, kind of a thing. The other big thing is the movement actually spawned a political party. This is one of the ones
That
that
does
actually
not
spawned a
surprise
political
me.
party called the.
Okay. Now, is
What?
it a political party like how the libertarians have a political party here? Or is it a political party like the British have multiple parties?
Closer to the British, they actually have seats in Parliament.
They have meaningful measures of power and control.
They have, I believe, as of last check, as of 2016, they had 3 seats in the national parliament.
not bad.
Which, given the
Small
size,
party, but
it's a small,
definitely
it's a small
have
group
power.
of people. That's a fair number. I don't know how many people are actually in their parliament, but I imagine numbers in the hundreds. But at least one, they've had people who've actually served in government before.
Okay, no,
They are an
yeah, so
actual
it's a-
no.
it's a party
I
that-
just
yeah.
wanted to know because like there's a lot of countries out there where it's like, no, we have a ton of political parties. No, you have 3 that duke it out in whatever your electoral cycle is, and that's all you got. You have
better than R2.
you've got the Green Party and the Libertarians, and no, you fucking don't.
Israel, I would admit, I mean, I don't know for sure. I did not look up Vanuatu's political structure for
No,
this.
no, I understand.
But I would imagine it might be more akin to Israel, where it's a bunch of constantly shifting small parties that are constantly in coalition with one another.
That would make sense with how you describe this island makeup.
Yeah, so.
So,
But anyways. It's the, let's see if I can get this right, then. I think I need glasses. My ability to read this is not that great. Not yours.
Blind yourself.
The Nagriamel Party. Nagriamel.
Okay.
It's found-
Nagriamel.
Something like that. It was founded back in 1966. Their original purpose was they actually opposed independence of Vanuatu.
They wanted to remain colonial.
For the moment, they did not want Vanuatu to form as a single centralized country. They were afraid Vanuatu heading the whole island chain with a central government, as opposed to just their island, would end up trampling on their traditional beliefs. Would be more likely a government like that would be more likely to favor Western traditions and customs and laws and stuff.
I get where they were coming from.
I believe somebody actually tried to like declare the island or like its own independent state on the day Vanuatu became independent, and like they actually had to like send people over there to stop
everywhere.
More generally, because they are still an operational party, they generally support free enterprise. They support Vanuatu's status as a tax haven. But on the other hand, they're also in favor
Yes,
of
white people, keep bringing your shit here.
they're also in favor of free education and free healthcare.
I mean,
So
I'm
it's
not
kind of a
opposed to that. Those are
Yeah.
those are important things.
They're also going to be, as you would expect, culturally conservative. They're against modern individualism, corrupting traditional values.
I'm guessing we're still talking third world or second world.
Vanuatu would be a developing country.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't know. If people are making arguments
think-
against individualistic politics, that can be spun any which number of ways.
yeah.
It
Well,
depends
I think
what
it's more
individuals you got a problem with.
well individualism, the idea of as opposed to a communal culture or tribal culture.
This is not the place you want to go, Nick.
Well, okay, the place
No
I wa-
communism here.
Well, no, the place I want to go is where you band together collectively because you recognize individual value.
Well, like that's what they're in favor of is more the because over there it's more the reverse of what it is in the West or in America. America, traditional values means individualism, rugged individualism. You're on your own kind of thing. Over there it's the reverse. Traditional for them
Okay,
is a more
so this
communal
is more
society.
of a communistic idea.
They don't like
Okay.
idea. Yeah.
I've never understood why exceptional individuals couldn't thrive in a community as well as individuals, but
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's tied more to
That's
the
a
idea of
different
individualism being tied to Western beliefs and cultural aspects. is
Okay,
what
so
anyways.
they definitely have their own political views, and they hold a bit of power
Yeah,
within their
yeah,
system.
they're a modern political
a
movement.
surprising amount of sway given what else you know.
Right.
It's a varying thing, like with any modern religion, is how many people these people actually believe that, the idea of, the abundance of goods has morphed into, it's not like literally there'll be a plane that lands. It'll be a era of prosperity. An era where we all have an abundance of stuff. We're all living
It's
the high
coming.
life.
We will do better.
It's almost like wealth gospel, but with less paying.
Yeah, something similar to that. An era, the tangible goods become an era of prosperity, which is an aspect a lot of these take on in the more modern era.
Still
the cargo
weird.
becomes
Yeah, no, it's still
abundant.
weird though.
Yeah,
Odd, but not crazy.
yeah. And
Who
like I
else
said,
we got?
next one is one of the ones you've been waiting for.
Okay.
The Prince Philip movement.
Yes.
Prince Philip movement.
The Prince Philip.
Do
Now,
they have him in a can?
Trying
No.
to remember when was
They were unable. They let him out already.
That's a shame. Canning is an excellent way to preserve the rich to be eaten at your leisure.
Anyway,
Now, I'm going to show horrible knowledge of global politics right now, but Philip, he's the one who's
he's the Queen's husband.
currently. Oh, no, okay, that's
Prince Philip is
the
Queen's
Queen's
He's
husband. Okay.
Prince Consort. He's the husband
Okay,
of the Queen,
gotcha,
Queen of the
gotcha.
United Kingdom. Again, this one is also present on the island of Tana in Vanuatu.
Oh, so they're also in the same area competing with.
Or on the same island.
Same, right.
Yeah. This is a different. This group is not as westernized or modern.
Is
These
this
people
one of
still,
the groups out in the jungle you were talking
This
about?
is a group that still lives a completely tribal lifestyle.
How many airstrips have they built?
None. That's my
Well,
knowledge.
clearly that's the wrong amount.
Well, oddly enough, they've probably had more success than any of these groups in getting what they're aspiring to.
Didn't Philip visit them once?
Philip did not visit them on the island once. He's been to Vanuatu. That's when this kind of started. Apparently, the way it started was there's an ancient legend they have in their tribe, in their area, about.
And
It
venerable.
was described as ancient legend. I don't know.
I just want to make sure that it's actually ancient and not in the 50s. The white guy's gonna come?
Okay.
A traditional legend passed down through
Multiple
word of mouth
generations.
through multiple generations since before the
Now,
Europeans got
you
there.
also have to remember, tribal generations are not lifetime as we know it now. You don't live to be 80 or 100.
This is not something that is based off of contact with Europeans.
I'm just trying to make
This
sure.
is a traditional
I'm just
thing.
trying to make sure.
That a band of warriors from the island at some point in the past left the island to fight a war and to preserve their indigenous culture,
Their way of life.
and had not come back yet. That the leader of this group, who vowed to return, married to a rich and powerful wife.
A
So-
foreign queen sounds rich and powerful.
Right. So when Elizabeth, became queen, and obviously they would have heard about her because it's a British colony.
Right.
They started, this guy married to a rich and powerful woman.
Queen
They-
must
they-
be
they-
our...
They see it as he rules with her help. That's how they view it.
must be their Messiah.
Yeah,
God forbid a woman
is
does something.
Like this guy returned, or the son. He's also like the son of their native mountain god or mountain spirit. But yeah, basically the fulfillment of this prophecy.
Their Messiah.
They kind of really locked onto it as like that's him. When he and Elizabeth, after she had taken the throne, I think this was in 74. The royal family visited Vanuatu as part of a broader tour of the British Commonwealth. And it is said, I couldn't find like definitive whether this actually happened or not, but they believe that when he was on the island, in some sort of ceremonial fashion, some local native gave him a ceremonial white pig, and his acceptance of this pig was like a
All I can
harbinger
think is
of.
Zambezi tribemen describing human flesh as long pig. A white pig, you say? A white pig?
That's what it said.
It is unusual.
It's a British colony. There's no shortage of fat imperialists.
Yeah, but he received this pig, and that is in the capital, and that is a harbinger of that's it. That's the guy. So they immediately started not full on worshiping him. They don't see him as a deity, more
Revering
as
him.
a prophet, or there's a term for it, a taboo man, a human being possessing powers that make him sacred.
Taboo Man sounds like an unsuccessful Ultraman spinoff.
The person who wrote the article I was reading compared it to how we venerate our war dead. To a degree, and a level of sacredness.
our
Not
national
you so
heroes?
much. Not
You know,
you, Connie
there
bastard.
are people
on my side.
You're talking
Wow.
about like how
Okay. way to spell it out.
you're talking about the way we treat our war heroes.
Or that like the idea of them like the honored dead.
Okay.
I'll remember
I
this when
gotcha.
the revolution's putting people up against walls.
I'm pretty sure I'm covered for that. You'll be on the front line of it. You'll be one of the advanced troops. The minute you start moving out and throwing actual Molotovs, I know to put my plans into practice. You're gonna be giving me an advanced warning just by being on the front lines. So thank you for that.
You
gonna
fully
outlive you
underestimate
all.
how stoned I will be at the outbreak.
You mean about as stoned as you usually are?
Exactly, and I believe you're underestimating those values.
Now, I mentioned these guys are more successful than the other groups.
Yeah, how so?
Well, first of all, I
'Cause
think,
that other one had like actual political power, and I'd consider that reasonably successful.
well, their end goal is ultimately that he will return, right? He will return, and then he will come to live with them on the island. That is what they believe.
And bring them stuff.
Yeah, they bring them stuff and a golden age, right? Well, I
Has
couldn't
he
get
brought them stuff?
I couldn't get an exact date, but at some point somebody actually made Prince Philip aware of this. That this group
He is
actually
I know
aware
exists.
that
that
a
this
letter
group-
got sent, but I thought he actually showed up.
He got told that they exist. They found out that he knows that they exist, and they sent him a Nal Nal, which is a traditional hunting club.
Cool.
He received it, keeps it, and sent them back a signed photo of him holding the club.
That's pretty
That is
awesome.
that is now a sacred relic for them.
That's pretty awesome.
That is the most low effort response physically possible from a man with literally all the money.
All right. Well, and that was a while ago. Back in 2007, a documentary called Meet the Natives, which sounded to me like some sort of weird reality show.
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, no.
Doesn't
but-
sound like a documentary, at least.
Yeah, that's how it was described. It sounds weird to me. But the point is, this group of people who run this thing managed to arrange for 5 of these natives, including their leader, to be
Probably
brought
not.
to the UK to meet Prince Philip, which they did. They had an off-camera meeting with him. They got to talk to him. They were very pleased
Well,
with
that's
it.
a shame. I wish this was documented.
Actually, some of the people at the palace were worried because he has a tendency to be, he's like his son, he'd be a little open with his choice of words sometimes.
Off message.
Yeah, off message or a little off the cuff.
Prompter.
Yeah, that because this guy, he's basically their revered figure. That if he said the wrong thing, a couple of wrong words, and he could like just rock their world, so to speak, in a very bad way.
Yeah.
Upset their entire religious belief system.
Apparently that caused them to attack him.
Apparently that did not happen. It was very cordial, enjoyable experience for him. While they were here, they also took them kind of on a tour of presumably like London and all that. This has nothing to do with them being a cargo cult, but I thought this
It's
was
a funny
interesting.
story.
So we're going to go into it anyways.
All right,
Tell me.
All right, let's hear it.
Tell me a story, Alan.
They took them to Madame Tussauds with a thing with all the wax figures.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They completely ignored all the other wax figures but his. They all basically were like hugging and shaking its hand. They didn't believe it was him, but they saw it as like an icon of him.
Wow.
A representation of their...
Him, of their.
Yeah,
They're just like, our statue
leader.
at home sucks.
We would love this one.
They were reduced to fits of giggles at the idea of people washing dogs, bathing our pets. Apparently, the idea of keeping pets and bathing them like you would a human being
Cleaning.
was hilarious to them.
Huh.
You know, there's a part of me that fully gets that. But then there's another part of me where it's like, I want a Himalayan Mastiff, and that's just a slobbering fur monster.
Yeah.
No.
Also, you don't want to let them mad up and get nasty.
Yeah, fur monster.
Right.
If Chewbacca's cousin was a dog.
Yeah.
Well,
They were appalled by the existence of homeless people.
Oh, yes, because
Yes.
that is appalling.
Because
you should be.
all these
that
you
and
have,
they don't
you
understand
rich
it. They're
people,
Developed nations should
You-
have this problem.
you rich,
in their village, I'm sure everyone does something.
Yeah.
There's no such
In
thing
the-
as
oh, yeah, they said,
homelessness.
in the
They've never
vil-
even
yeah,
heard of
in the
this.
village, if you don't have a home, everybody just gets together and helps you build one.
Right.
What are you rich people with all these big, giant, empty buildings with a lot of space, got people out on the street for?
Right.
Mostly I wanted to mention this for that reaction.
Politics.
Thank you, Nick.
Richest nation on earth, my ass.
When they took them to a nightclub, they were surprisingly unfazed by it because apparently some of it was similar enough to some of the ritual dancing they do on the island. It was kind of like, oh yeah, we're down for this. This is we're familiar with this shit.
Disco was nothing but thinly veiled blood rites in order to keep the world running.
Well, okay, think about how much.
The emergence of rave culture was simply because the clock was getting reset.
Think about how much trance music is based around tribal drum beats,
Yeah. No, but
percussion,
yeah.
and beats. They know that. They do it with their hands
yeah, no,
on skins. We won't ask what creatures they came from.
but yeah, and then apparently when they took them to a pub and they were utterly amazing at darts. They completely rocked darts.
Well, yeah, thrown weaponry.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out the best dart players on the planet are Irish, so if drunk people are good at it, it is not a challenging task.
Yeah.
If the Germans put their minds to it.
Yeah, but Prince Philip gave them another photo and sent them back with it, which is now their number 2 shrine or sacred object. They're aware that like he's kind of started going into retirement, and he's getting up there, and they fully expect that he will
Retire
he will
to their island?
he will come to their island and die on their island. They believe he is destined to die amongst them.
I really wonder
You know,
what
it
his
would
thoughts
probably
on
be
this
really
are.
easy to socially isolate on that island.
I really want to know what his thoughts are on this.
I imagine, given the fact that he's
The
agreed
rest
to
of
meet
the
them in
royal
that, he's
fam-
flattered by it.
The rest of the royal family probably will never allow him to air those thoughts.
Oddly enough, Charles has been back to Vanuatu, and they basically are just kind of like
Meh, whatever.
About Charles. Charles and the rest of the family play
Well,
no
yeah,
role
your
in this
kids
whatsoever.
have no role.
Yeah,
I
they're
love
just
that. I love that. That is
Just
that's exactly how I feel about royal families. Oh, so your grandfather did some awesome shit? The fuck you do? No, I mean lately.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going to talk about the followers of Yali Singina. Yali Singina.
Yali Singina?
Yep. This group, best I could tell, doesn't have a formal name. It's just followers of this one guy.
Oh, okay. It's the guy who's leading its name.
Yeah. This is the one that can most best be described as a proper cult.
Okay.
Yeah, this screwed up shit here. Yali Singina was from Sor Village in Papua New Guinea. And during World War II, he worked with the Australian authorities, helping them do reconnaissance and spying and such for the Allies, looking out for Japanese planes and such. After the war, they employed him in a position in government. Basically, they wanted him to go around to the locals and kind of convince them to work with the local authorities that, yeah, the Australian authorities are good, help out, do what we tell you, so on and so forth. Which he agrees to do. The only...
I could fucking smack you.
What? I needed another beer.
You know that's going to be on wax. Continue, Alan. Continue.
All right. But yeah, no. After he gets his job working for the Australian authorities back home, over time he decides, basically, that he's going to start doing the exact opposite of what they want him to do, and starts talking about how they should be ignoring what the authorities want them to do and returning to the traditional ways.
Well, fuck the police. I mean,
Yeah. Well, simultaneously becoming the police. He builds up a political base of his own, actually under his new...
I'd like to point out, if you fuck the police hard enough, you'll get the police pregnant, and then the police's child is your child, ergo you have become the police.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm just advocating fucking the police hard, and then sticking around to raise the child.
That's
Yeah,
a
so-
unwieldy metaphor.
Yeah, we'll
Most of mine are. I like to bludgeon people with them like cudgels.
We'll hold that thought of literally fucking the police. We'll get back to that. He gets appointed to the position of foreman overseer, which is a job they create for him, which is kind of, I guess, it's like nebulous as to
That
what
is
he's
a
actually supposed to do.
redundant fucking title.
It's a very redundant title.
Yeah, but he basically takes this to
Gamikai.
mean. He basically takes his job to mean that he's in charge of, like, policing the native population, and he can come up with other rules and regulations for their tribal, like how their tribal aspects of society work, right? Basically, he's just can do whatever he wants. He is put in charge of a police force as part of this job.
I'm your god now.
When you say police force, do you mean like actual police force or just a bunch of dudes with guns?
Actual legally sanctioned
There
police
were
force.
badges with serial numbers in them.
I don't know if they had literal badges or
Badges?
literal
We
serial
don't
numbers,
need
but
no
it was a
stinking
legally
badges.
sanctioned, lawful police force established by law by the Australian authorities.
Okay, they probably had badges then.
Yeah.
We don't need no stinking badges.
Cheech Marin, please sue him so that he never makes that joke again, please. Pretty please. I'll be your best friend. We can't be your friend anyway. You're Cheech fucking Marin, but
Yeah.
Was that who
Yeah.
played the guy in Blazing Saddles?
no.
Because that's what I'm quoting. Is the scene from Blazing Saddles.
No, you're not. You're quoting Cheech and Chong up in smoke. Moving on.
Anyways, okay.
It's an iconic scene.
either way, resolve that later. He basically in 1948 he gets involved with an actual like other cult group led by a man called Gurik, and he kind of meets up with this guy, and they kind of agree that between his like cult preaching and Yali's political connections and political network, they're gonna kind of combine the two to like fully gain like control of the area or whatever, and they kind of do that. He had already started to have people attributing like cult leader-esque qualities to him when he was going around talking about returning to the old ways and stuff like that. He kind of made it sound like he knew what was going to happen or stuff like that. And
He was being a prophet and telling them what was going to come.
He said things in vague ways that allowed some people to start thinking he was a prophet, and he simply didn't correct them when he did.
Okay.
They did.
Okay. Tell me a single prophet that didn't get proclaimed a prophet through anything but vague descriptions and predictions.
That's
Name
kind of
one.
how the prophet job works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems to be the only requirement.
But
Oracles, soothsayers,
Jerry
prophets,
Falwell,
it's all very
anyone.
generic.
Anyone.
It's a technique called cold reading.
yeah, as a big part of the group they form, like I said, he was already convincing them, the return to traditional beliefs, stuff like that, and that will, lead to an eventual abundance of, cargo and prosperous times. Was very anti-Christian, anti-missionary, which was an attitude he developed when he kind of started being in contact with the outside world and realized that not every Westerner was as devoutly religious as the missionaries pointed out.
Right.
Heard about Darwin, and it's like, well, these missionaries are just kind of a bunch of hypocritical bastards who've been lying to me all this time.
Yeah,
fuck them.
Not necessarily untrue.
Yeah.
And so that kind of becomes the core of it. And
Seems like he's got a point so far.
yeah, and this is the point where we kind of get into territory that's different than a lot of these other groups, because at this point, he and his followers and the cops he has under his control start going around actually like beating on not mercenaries, missionaries.
I think you're allowed to beat on mercenaries.
Depends who they're working for.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you're not allowed to punch Blackwater guys, even though they really deserve it.
But yeah, so they start beating on missionaries. The cops start going around raping people.
Okay, maybe their strategy was to make the people the police.
No, more
Instead
of
of-
Hey,
that.
this
Fuck
is
the
this is
police,
what
we have
happens
police,
when I
fuck
roll
the
out of
people.
bed and come here. You expect A material? Fuck y'all.
More that group of guys with guns you were alluding to before.
Stop being really a
there's-
police force and turned into just a group of thugs.
Thugs, yeah, going around beating on people, sexually assaulting people they didn't like.
And I would imagine that those people they didn't like tended to be the Christians in the area.
Oh yeah, Christians, missionaries especially, like I said. While
Burning
they're
a
doing,
church or two.
Yeah.
Christians do love showing up where they're not invited.
while they're doing this,
Hey, we invited him. That one at least.
Yeah, that one. We have our token.
anyways, but yeah, while they're doing this, you still got the cult aspect, which they basically he comes up with a ritual that's supposed to be able to produce money out of thin air. And the way this works is he has a group of what he refers to as flower girls.
This is never good. Every cult has these,
Yeah.
and it's never good.
Now, I didn't see anything definitive. From context, I'm assuming at least most of these flower girls were actually adult women. That's what it sounds like. I don't know that for sure, but that's what it sounds like.
For a given value of the word adult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
Yeah, I mean, given how this guy operates, I would not be surprised if that was not the case. But
Yeah, I'm
Either
sure
way.
some of those flower girls are as young as 14 or 15, possibly even younger.
either way, he has these this group of flower girls who come have sex with him because, of course, he's a cult leader.
Well,
Duh.
cult leader.
Yeah.
It's good to be the king.
Now
Now we're quoting Mel Brooks.
Just quoting a different Mel Brooks than I was quoting.
I'm telling you, the bit you're doing is from Up in Smoke. If we have to watch Up in Smoke after this, I will make you.
We're also gonna apparently have to watch Blazing Saddles because apparently you don't remember
You-
any of
you
that
guys-
movie.
you
I
guys-
do remember the scene with
I
Mighty
think
Joint.
I think the scene is from both.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And
you-
it's not
it
the
is
joint
possible
scene,
for
it's
that
the
bit
scene
to be
where
in more than
they're,
one movie.
Hiring all of the really racist mercenaries, and there's the group of Mexican banditos, and he goes, "Here's your badges," and they go, "Badges? We don't need no stinking badges." It's definitely from the Mel Brooks movie as well. It might be from both.
Which came out first?
I think Mel
I
Brooks.
think technically what it's originally from is a Killer Bees sketch featuring Cheech Marin on Saturday Night Live, which then got parlayed into his stand-up, which then made it into Up in Smoke.
Okay,
And
that-
it may have been that Mel
that-
Brooks
if that
was
came out before-
doing that bit.
yeah, if
but
that came out before that movie came out, Mel Brooks might have been, making,
All right,
playing
so the
off of
point
that.
is, all of Hollywood is nothing but filthy plagiarists.
Okay. Anyway,
and we're getting way off on tangents.
Cult leader, girls he's having sex with. Then what they would do is they would take the
And Cheech Marin. That's why people come for this show,
yeah
man.
they would take the resulting leavings of that union and
save
put it into a bottle along with a special flower, specific type of flower. Leave it overnight, and if they were doing it right and the ancestors were happy, money would appear at the bottom of the bottle. I would
money coated in his leavings.
Well, no, I mean under. I
This
believe
sounds,
it's under
this
the
sounds
bottle.
like LaVeyan Satanism, where he's just coming on rocks in the desert to perform rituals. Like,
Yeah. I don't know if like he just kept saying, "Damn it, we didn't do it right. Try it again," or if he actually they just planted money at the bottom of
I
the
was
bottle.
gonna say they leave it overnight, so at night when everyone's asleep,
There
he
was
goes
just-
in and puts money
no,
underneath
there
it.
was just one weirdo on the island that was their kink and was willing to pay for the jars. That's what I'm taking from this.
Oh no. Well,
In the era of gamer girl bathwater, no, this was just one industrious dude who was well ahead of the curve.
yeah, well, needless to say, the authorities in New Guinea do not like that he's doing any of this, and they try to nail him personally for various instances of assault or rape or whatever. Eventually, they get him. I think in later that year in '48, and then I think he ends up in trial and convicted in '49 of being responsible for some of the rapes that are being committed by his police officers.
How hard do you have to be raping to be committed of it in 1949?
I'm pretty sure rape is still a
Yeah,
frowned upon thing.
harder to prove back then,
no, that's,
but it's still.
that's my point. How
frowned
many
upon in the same
reported
way.
rapes got dismissed in this country where people fucking pay attention?
Oh,
Move to
you're
a
right.
small island nation with little to no government infrastructure or law enforcement.
It definitely
how
happened
bad
less.
and prolific did you have to be at this for everyone to be like, yeah, you need to go away now?
Not that prolific. You do it once, as long as you got caught and there was plenty of evidence against you. You do get thrown in jail.
I really think track records would disagree with that.
That, and I'm sure
I
all
don't
of his
think the only-
followers were obscuring any evidence coming in as much as they could, because protecting the guy on
Yeah.
top.
But I mean,
There's reasons that cults last. It's generally not because the one dude is protecting himself, it's because all of the followers are protecting him.
anyways.
But it didn't work in the end.
Yeah,
'Cause you
he
said
ends up-
it was
he ends up-
49. He ends up finally convicted.
He ends up convicted. I believe the actual charge they convict him of was deprivation of liberty and incitement to rape. Is the actual things they convict him
I
of.
just want to point out in terms of where like women's rights were at this time to really hammer home that point. In 3 years, L. Ron Hubbard will kidnap his own child. Okay, that's where we're fucking at, guys. And we're not even in like a part of the world where we're in a part of the world that I'm amazed L. Ron isn't. Let's put it that way.
Hey, this is under the control of Australia. It's one of the first places to tell him to go fuck off.
Yeah, but that was like in the 80s.
Still, I mean, it's not a place likely for him to show up. It's one of the places
Unless
least likely
somebody
for him
tells
to
him
show
there's
up.
gold there.
Well, you also have to remember he thought Asian people were smelly and backwards, so...
Yeah, he probably wouldn't want anything to do with this area of the world then.
We miss
At
you,
least
Elron.
at that point.
Yeah, no. He was in jail for like was it 6 or 7 years, I think, like that, something like that. Yeah, six and a half years.
For 40 some odd goddamn counts, 5 years. Are you shitting me?
Where did you get 40 counts?
How many counts did he go in on?
Well, there were 2 charges in deprivation of liberty and incitement to rape. It was one case of rape specifically that they actually convicted him on.
See, that's so much more disappointing. It's no. We only got him on the one, but everybody knew this was going on. That's so much fucking worse.
It happens.
Yeah.
Well, get him on what you can prove. All the people Al Capone murdered, they got him on income tax evasion.
They would have gotten Al Capone on anything eventually. That man was a syphilitic wreck at the end. No. Look at stories of him from after he was incarcerated when he started taking a sharp nosedive. No. That man was retarded. He wanted to be called Snorky. He wanted his gangster nickname to be Snorky.
Even despite the jail time, he still kept his following. When he was in, was it in jail or after jail?
You have no time for this.
Yeah, after he
has no time for this.
after he got out of jail, he both had women who would still show up to sleep with him and walk away with the vial of the leavings.
So
of
after
stuff.
getting out
Dude,
of...
women still wanted to fuck Dahmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
know-
after he gets out of prison, he goes right back to...
Well, the cult itself actually dies down. The organization breaks down. For one, he still has people coming to see him for that, and then also because I guess he was doing this beforehand. He would rebaptize people to wash away the sin of Christianity.
Wash away the Christian filth.
Yeah, let's just
wash
use the
away
Christian ritual to,
wash
wash away
away
the
the-
Christianity.
Yeah, yeah,
That tracks.
yeah.
Well,
But yeah.
I assume that the thought process that goes through that is you do it once and it puts the effect on. You do it a second time and it cancels it all out.
There's a lesson to be learned about indoctrination here about using pre-existing biases if you know what they're thinking to just manipulate that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and eventually,
Pedology.
eventually the group, like I said, pretty much died off as a serious thing. It still exists today. There are still a few followers left today.
Dude, there are still Branch Davidians, so I'm
Yeah.
not surprised.
So,
Is he still alive?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he was
Yeah,
a
at
grown
this
man,
point-
and he was a
yeah,
fully grown man in
okay, no,
'48.
the
He wouldn't be
40s,
old.
He'd be well over 100 at this point. He
Yeah.
can't be.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
dude, what are you talking about? My grandpa fought in World War II, and he's not 100.
How old was your grandpa when he fought in World War II?
I'm not positive, but I believe he was 22.
This guy would have been like in his 30s or 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So,
just
he's got a couple of
wanted to
decades
make
on
a
him.
point about people doing in the Pacific in the 40s.
Yeah,
He'd
it's
be
not
like
that he was-
120 or 130 at
Yeah,
this point.
Because don't get me wrong, Grandpa Rathbun's old as shit. Like let's not
Well, no.
split hairs here. He
yeah.
is an old man with paper skin at this point.
Yeah,
but-
it's not that he was alive in '48. It's how old he was in '48, which is the limiting factor
okay,
here.
no.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be clear. No, someone could totally have been doing then and still be kicking.
Oh yeah,
Not hard, but kicking.
yeah. No.
I'm also figuring in health in that area of the world probably isn't
my
as good as
my
Steele.
grandpa was a drinker and a cigar smoker, and he's still alive. No, it's all bullshit.
Anyways, Alan.
So the final group we're going to talk about is the Johnson cult of
Now, there were
New
air
Hanover.
quotes around that cult name. Are they not really a cult?
no, and we'll get to that in a second. But in New Hanover, New Guinea. See, New Hanover and New Guinea. And this comes up in 1964 when
1964. Johnson, you say? You couldn't possibly be referring to L.B. Jumbo Johnson, would you?
Lyndon Baines Johnson. I don't remember there ever being a jumbo in his name.
Oh,
but-
there has always been a jumbo attached to Johnson. And he made damn sure you knew, son.
I'd never heard that.
He used to whip it out and just ask people, have you ever seen anything so big? There's audio of him on the phone with some New York designer, I forget who the fuck it is, not important to the story, but talking about how the inseam of pants is too high, and it cuts me like a wire because of his huge
I do
fucking
remember
dong.
hearing that.
I love Johnson.
So they worship the U.S. president?
Well, what happens is like I said, in 1964, New Guinea is becoming an independent country that year from Australia, and they're holding their first election. The people in this town, very specifically the Levangai people of New Hanover, decide that they're all going to vote for Lyndon Baines Johnson to be their first leader.
Okay. You said it was just a small town in
I
New
feel
Guinea?
they have sound judgment.
That it was just this town wanted to join the U.S.?
Well, they wanted Lyndon Johnson to be their
No,
president.
why would you want to join the shit show of America? Just pick a good one of us and be like, hey, no, that
Well,
one.
We're talking about the 60s.
Yeah. I'm talking about a man who didn't believe in the Civil Rights Act but pushed it through because of a greater moral reality. No, I have tremendous respect for Lyndon Baines Johnson, the sacrifices he had to make personally, and the progress he pushed this country through.
In the 60s, the U.S. was doing better. Better than it had been.
We were respectable. There were a lot of problems, but we were respectable.
I
Anyways.
can see why these people would look at Johnson and go, yeah, this is the right guy. I kind of get it.
The worst you could actually go after Johnson for on a moral level back in the day, aside from racism, because still everybody, was him lifting his fucking dogs by the ears. Past that, he was a pretty good guy for the time.
Anyways, so they vote for
Whipped
Johnson.
his dick out constantly.
They vote for Lyndon Johnson for, I say president. I think it was either that or for just their local representative.
Whatever they called their
Yeah, I
leaders in
think New Guinea
town.
was independent as part of the Commonwealth, so it would have been a parliamentary system. So it would have been for their MP or for prime minister. But
Okay.
I hate that there's no story of LBJ going to these people, because I would have heard of it and it would have been magical. But no, like I'm sad because I already know that LBJ doesn't actually show up.
yeah, no, he doesn't. The Australian authorities go to these people in this town and they tell them you can't vote for him, right? For the litany of reasons.
Bullshit! This
Yeah.
is a democracy.
You know, he's not a
He's
potential
not a valid candidate.
candidate. Yeah, he does not.
Democracy.
He doesn't qualify. He does not legally qualify to be. You know.
But we vote for him.
And they refuse to change their votes. They're like,
Okay.
no, we're going to keep doing this. A lot of people, when this happened, a lot of people immediately started thinking that these people were like a cargo cult, right? That they saw Johnson as this man who's going to come in, kind
And
of like the
bring
Prince
them all
Philip
this
thing.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, turns out that's not was actually happening.
Okay.
What it actually was, these people were perfectly well aware that Lyndon Johnson was not going to come and become their, serve in their
bullshit!
government.
Bullshit! There had to be one guy in a make whatever country great a hat again, sitting there just being like, no, he's going to come and he's going to fix everything. instantly.
It was a drop vote. It was.
It was a political protest, basically
the
saying
equivalent of us voting for Palpatine Vader 2020.
As someone
Yeah.
who's
More like-
participated in a couple protest movements, we don't chase out the dumb ones that are there for the wrong reason. They usually bring snacks and a bullhorn.
more like
and they fill out the crowd.
more like us voting for the Canadian Prime Minister. Something like that.
It's
I mean, that would be the most Canadian thing to do. Ask our neighbors what they think of the new guy.
Yeah,
no,
but-
as a political statement.
Well, I
it
mean,
makes
they're gonna
sense.
have
We
to
do it
live next
ourselves
door
in
to him, eh?
America.
yeah, no, they
Only seems fair, eh?
yeah, basically it was the idea of showing support for the Americans over their own government because the Australian authorities had basically not treated New Guinea well.
Yeah, kind of screwed things up.
Whereas during the
Australia's
war,
another fun place with a fucked history.
whereas during the war, American forces that were fighting in New Guinea did treated the locals well and had a very favorable
Better than the Australians
themselves. So it was like, yeah, we want the Americans to come rule
Yeah,
us.
they treated us
not
nice.
the Aussies. Let them come in and take over. Yeah, but
You know, the funny thing, if you had gotten that information to the right political movers in the U.S. at that point in time,
It could have happened.
Oh, they could have made an argument for expansionism that would have fallen on far more receptive ears.
I mean, at this point, not so much. I mean, at this point, the general trend globally was decolonization, just as a global movement. Taking on another possession like that would not have been a popular idea, really amongst anybody. Now, doing something
Well,
like they did with
if I recall, the next popular motion to consider statehood was Quebec considering joining the fucking U.S.
Well-
yes,
well, no.
this was in the 80s, to my
no
understanding.
in
late
the
80s.
in the 90s, they held one of the referendums to vote to be independent, and it got like within a couple percentage points of passing to become independent. Becoming a state, I don't know.
What I had heard was that they were going to the way that the arrangement would ultimately shake down because they didn't have enough national infrastructure to support their entire population on only domestic industry, that they were going to enter some sort of protectorate deal with the U.S. with the ultimate goal of eventual statehood. That is the way it was
can't-
explained to me in a social studies classroom. Now, if I've lost understanding in the intervening years, if that teacher explained it poorly, that I own that, but that is my
I
understanding.
mean, the idea of any parts of or all of Canada becoming part of the United States has always been an idea that's been bandied around. I don't think it's ever had substantial support.
I still think it's ridiculous that U.S. protectorate territories aren't states. I still find that ridiculous
Yeah.
'cause they're
Well-
U.S. citizens, but
Well, there's two real reasons for that.
you have to have the support of the local populace, which is not always a thing. And that, to my understanding, that's usually the biggest hurdle.
But why that isn't a thing is largely because they're not states. There are certain tax benefits they have. There are certain taxes that they do not
Oh,
have
yeah,
to pay.
no, a lot of them get used as tax havens.
It's the same reason places like Shelby Township or Macomb Township don't become the city of Shelby, because when you incorporate, there's financial reasons. I don't fully understand them all, but to my understanding, if you fully incorporate to a full-on city rather than a township, there are more financial burdens that you take
I
on.
believe it changes the individual burden of the state responsibility to individual property owners.
Is that what it is?
I believe if you're unincorporated, you technically don't even have to run sewer lines to places. So it's a case of if you're an actual incorporated city, I refuse to believe you'd be allowed to have anyone on independent water or power.
So
Yeah,
cargo
stuff like that.
cults.
But yeah. So yeah. But anyways, yeah.
Back to Jumbo Johnson.
Yeah.
So
that-
this
that's
was
an
mostly a
example.
political statement.
Yeah, and that is an example
Not a
of
cult.
one of the final points I want to make of
Politics is definitely culty. I'm calling that.
we already-
Politics has been a cult for 200 fucking years.
longer than that.
Your point.
But the idea that we talk about the idea of the descriptor of cargo cults is not a properly accurate term
It's
for
not a
all
good
of these
catch-all.
groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of it is that label also gets applied to things that don't even fit into the loose category of things that it should be. Like
Do you know what I
this,
think? Do you
like
know
the
what I think
Johnson
this
thing
honestly?
isn't.
I honestly think this just shows a lack of observation and interest from what traditionally has been referred to as the developed world. But let's be frank, the white world hasn't paid attention.
That is the point.
That is a
That
lot.
is that is the point I'm getting at here. Is that it's a misunderstanding, a lack of
The
overgeneralization.
catch-all term is a bad term, but it's what we use because it's what's been given.
See, this is one of those reasons that I don't understand why people like stay in their little bubbles. The world is so fucking weird and so full of shit. Why would you not go and look at it?
Because it's comfortable in your bubble.
Yes.
You know everything that's there, and that's
Not
comfortable.
not everybody
I
likes
refuse
new
to believe.
things.
I refuse to believe that there is anywhere in this world that I could travel and not find a chair comfortable enough to fall asleep in. I refuse to believe that's a thing.
Well, we'll bundle you up and send you to Antarctica then.
The research base has like a casino and a bar, dude.
Not that part of Antarctica. The other part of Antarctica. The part with just penguins.
Well, you guys are just assholes then.
Which totally off topic, but I actually saw an article today
We
on
haven't been on
CNN
topic for
that
a
said
while.
apparently they've discovered that when penguins take a shit, they release a crazy amount of laughing gas. Apparently that's a thing.
Oh God, the kids are.
We
gonna
mentioned penguins, so I thought I'd throw that out
Kids
there.
are going to be.
Is that why
snorting
everyone
penguin
loves the
farts
penguin
now.
house at the zoo? Is that why everyone loses their mind to go into a building that smells like bird shit?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well,
yeah.
the penguins are cool. Don't get me wrong. A bird that swims versus flies. Yeah, no, that is
It flies
neat.
through the water.
That is neat. I'm not gonna say it's not. I have never been in a penguin house that didn't smell like shit. No matter how much moving air, no matter how large, no matter how they
found
arrange
they
it,
usually
they
smell
all
like fish.
smell like shit.
But
No, okay. I keep fish. I have to deal with aquarium smell in the room in which I sleep. No. I know what fish smells like. That ain't fish. That is fish after it's been places that the sun will never reach.
So, basically, in summary here, get back to topic
Penguins
one
smell
last
bad.
time. You have this thing called cargo cults that is starts off as a simple, just weird example of cross-cultural miscommunication that develops into a new broader socioeconomic political movements.
Yeah, at the end of this, I don't like the term cargo cult. It
it's a
seems
bad
viciously
term.
inaccurate.
Well, yeah, like you said-
like there's like a handful of groups maybe that fit this header, and then beyond that, this is just subcultural groups. This is just
this
like
is just things happening
this
in
is-
that part
yeah.
of the world.
This is
Yeah.
sociological grouping. It's what do these select cultures value and believe. That's it. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, it keeps that label simply because no one in the academic community has come up with
Has
anything.
bothered to read
better
about it.
that
Okay,
people
one
can
of us
agree
get
on.
a degree and then start proposing ethical names for shit.
Alan. You're the whole.
That's
out of the
Alan's
that is
three,
not
okay.
my-
Okay,
You're the
Alan
one
is
most
never going.
likely.
Alan is never going to suggest more compassionate language for anything.
No, but he's the only one who's ever likely to end up with a degree.
Fuck you. If this works as an entertainer, I could get an honorary doctorate somewhere.
That doesn't count.
I can so make people call me doctor. Cosby did it and got away with it for decades.
All right.
Not an
Ventura.
example you want to go off of, I don't think. Not someone to emulate.
I'm not a sexual assaulter who drugs women. If I want to
Yeah, but
if I want to emulate, the being successful part and a pillar of my community and giving back and trying to represent a kinder soul even while being a dark twisted monster, you know me in my private life, so
Yes, but that's kind of like saying you want to emulate Adolf Hitler as a public speaker, but it's okay because you're not a Nazi?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Oh my god.
Here's the thing. No. There are parts of the world where, like in India, where Hitler is literally looked at as an efficiency guru. So there are people right now, running around India preaching exactly that.
Well, folks,
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Godwin!
I
And
think
this time it wasn't either of us.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll end on the Godwin there.
Nazis are everywhere, kids.
Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been Informed and Confused. I'm Ben.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Nick.
Bye. There's a little garage on a small town street. I like to meet my friends there every week, and I know we'll talk about some facts and things, history and science and some crazy shit. Talking it out with Alan, Ben, and Nick, and I know that it's gonna be a weird ass show. Ooh, insanity abounds. Ooh, the world is spinning round. Now we're gonna break it down.